And it's been game changing for me to be able to. It takes a little bit more time, but I'm actually retaining information in a way that I've never been able to do before. He had thrown somebody on the ground, he still had a hold of their arm, and he just grabs a hold of their fingers and starts separating like the fingers, like the Vulcan peace sign in opposite directions. He's like, I'm just gonna rip these.
Hold on a second, Aaron. How do we just walk away from this conversation without asking him who his favorite Ninja Turtle is?
Welcome to the No Streetlights podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Tim. We'll be engaging in conversations every Friday to shine a light on what we've been through, how it changed us, and what we learned.
We want to encourage societal growth towards kindness through understanding.
These conversations and the associated language can be triggering.
Listen at your own discretion.
But please reach out if we need to be doing something better.
So, let's take a breath, relax, and be welcome.
Beautiful day, beautiful time, beautiful mind. Speaking of beautiful minds, Aaron, who did we bring on the podcast today?
Today, we're joined by a fascinating guest with a multifaceted life. He's a medical device engineer by day and a Kuntao Silat guru by night. He's a dedicated husband and father and a devout Catholic. He's got a passion for learning. He's an avid neophyte, and he also loves adventure. He loves seeking out new places to get uncomfortable and push his own limits. He loves doing that with both martial arts and world traveling. Everyone, please welcome Kyle Mentink.
Hi there, guys. Thanks for the great welcome.
Kyle, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you on here. Before we get started into anything, what is a Kuntao Silat? Am I saying that right?
It's Kuntao Silat.
Okay.
So it's a blend of Penjat Silat and Chinese Kung Fu. So it's mostly based out of Indonesia, and it came to the United States through the Dutch. Came through most of the rest of the world through the Dutch. So it's a Dutch-Indonesian martial art.
Dang. Well, that sounds incredibly fascinating. I do think we're gonna dive in. I got some questions about this because I've never heard of Kuntao Silat. So I definitely want to learn some more.
It's a small group. Yeah.
Yeah. But before we dive into learning a little bit more about you, Kyle, I do want to just go ahead and thank the listeners for tuning into us. If you're listening to us on an audio platform, be it Spotify, Apple, or whatever various other places we are currently playing on, or if you're checking us out on YouTube. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube and you didn't know that we were on Apple and Spotify, go check us out there. It helps us a lot. And if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, go check us out on YouTube. That would also help us out a lot.
So, Kyle, I think we're going to get into it. Feel free to tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you came to be who you are. I'm sure being raised by two engineers was quite a unique experience.
Yeah, living in a household where being right is the most important thing. Definitely colors your life a little bit. But I guess I grew up kind of the same place I think both of you did, the Mid-Ohio Valley, Parkersburg, West Virginia area.
Yep.
Tim,
Yeah.
I believe you're the legendary Tim of Aaron's childhood that I heard about so many times and never actually met.
Legendary's pushing it a little bit there, but I am pretty cool.
Yeah, so spent most of my formative years in Parkersburg, West Virginia, like you guys did, and then when I graduated high school, headed to college in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is about 2 miles south of Canada. Little exaggeration, but you're surrounded by Lake Superior on three sides, which was a lot of fun. And while I was there, got to travel quite a bit. Ended up in Georgia and Spain and California for short periods of time, and then graduated, moved to Chicago. That's where I kind of met my Kuntao Salat teacher and met my now wife. And I now live in Iowa because I wanted to get married, and my wife had the dream job out here. if you would have given me a list of states that I thought I was going to live in, Iowa would have never made it. If you had given me a list of states, I would have forgotten about Iowa.
That's more along how I was feeling too. I was like, Iowa, huh? Kind of always forget. I always get Iowa and Idaho mixed up. And the only reason why I remember Idaho is because of potatoes. And there's going to be like
Potatoes.
somebody who lives in Idaho listening to this or watching this, and they're going to be like, we're more than just potatoes. You know that, right? But you guys don't understand how much I love potatoes. So
There's a wonderful shirt around here that has an outline of Iowa, the state, and it says "Welcome to Ohio," and then it has Boise in the middle of it. Uh, it's one of my favorite shirts that I've seen around here.
welcome to Ohio.
Hopefully, it's not as bad as Ohio.
Yeah. I've been watching some videos on YouTube that are like retrospective deep dives into like movies and stuff that I grew up watching. And one of them was a Friday the 13th, and it was talking about how much Ohio is actually hell on earth. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty fair. But yeah, anyway, you're in not Ohio. You're in
I'm in not Ohio.
not Idaho. You're in Iowa.
Uh,
Yeah, there we go.
that's
Perfect. So Kuntao Silat, like when did you start getting into actually, you know what, before we even go into that, what were you doing in college? Like what was your major?
I flip-flopped and then ended up doing both of them. So I have 2 degrees, one in mechanical engineering and one in biomedical engineering.
Jesus.
That
Huh.
sounds incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
I mean,
I tr-
yes and no. It plays to my skill sets, so I didn't have to write a lot, which is good for me. I would have had much more struggles with that, but I did get to do lots of analytical math and science, which I understand is hard for some people,
Yeah,
myself included,
I'm definitely not
sometimes.
the best with math. And I probably wouldn't be very good with biology. Actually, this is probably why I've never been to college. So, I mean, you've you got 2 degrees. I have nothing, so whatever.
That's
I
just
do
a
want to
piece of
know.
paper.
So, when we were growing up in the MOV, you and I came up through the ranks of Shaolin Kung Fu together
Hmm.
and really poured ourselves into that. So, I do want to hear a little bit about how that shaped you and how you found Salat.
So I think, yeah, let's wind back to before you and I met, which, by the way, for Tim and for the listeners, Aaron and I talked a couple months ago for the first time, and I did the math, I think 14 years.
Sounds right?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it was very much like nothing had ever passed, which I find a lot with the people who lived at the Quan, who lived and breathed that life.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, growing up, I was, I think, bullied a bit by friends or people that I met, to the point where I was kind of nervous socially, very nervous socially. Um, and I saw a couple people I knew who were doing kung fu, and I saw how confident that made them. And I liked the Ninja Turtles when I was a child, so I wanted to do martial arts, and eventually my parents let me do that. And I think Aaron and I started within weeks of each other
Hmm.
and immediately hooked, both of us. I had kind of an outlet to build that confidence. I got to do physical exercise, um, and it's super engaging in the brain. Um, there's a lot of stuff to remember, a lot of stuff to do, and I really enjoyed that. I learned how to learn, um, in Shaolin Kung Fu, because at that point in my life, I never struggled to learn anything, because I'm very blessed, very lucky, that I've got a quick brain. Um, so I'd either had stuff where I'm like, well, I'm not good at that and I'll never be good at that. Or I had stuff that I was good at right away. And Kung Fu was the first thing that I was like, I'm not good at this, but I really, really want to be.
Like the first thing that actually you wanted to work towards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
it taught me how to work towards a goal. It really did.
Yeah.
that even that brief introduction there really sparked a couple things that with Kung Fu, man, it allows you to be present because in order to be present, you really have to be in your body and to kind of feel everything that's going on from the ground to to the top of your head, uh, to really engage in the moment fully.
I think that's part of why I still do martial arts because it's very grounding for me
Mhm.
to take the time, um, really be present in where you are, um, and then really kind of get some exercise in. It kind of hits. So I've struggled a lot, especially in my adult life, with depression and a little bit of anxiety. I found out recently it's probably tied to ADHD. I don't have an official diagnosis. I've got two psychologists and my primary care doctor going, yeah, you probably have ADHD. You should take a test, but I haven't taken the test yet. Um,
Are you
and
procrastinating?
no, you'd
It's
think
almost like you have ADHD.
it's almost like that. No, it's just impossible to get in. There are like five places around here to do it, and I called in March, and they're all booked till August.
Holy
So,
crap.
yeah. So, anyway, yeah, martial arts, it's physically engaging, it's mentally engaging, so it checks those boxes. You start working out, so you get the endorphins going, and that kind of helps deal with the depression and anxiety. Um, it saved me once in Switzerland, not in the way that you're thinking. When I was traveling in Switzerland, I did not plan well. I was living in Spain at the time, which was in the middle of economic depression, and Switzerland's main export is banking.
Hmm.
Um, so I budgeted like I was in Spain when I went over there and was broke within hours. And I didn't
Yeah.
call my bank, and I didn't have a cell phone that worked. So so I was broke with no way to get a hold of anybody in a place that I'd never been, in a place that I don't speak the language. Um, Long story short, ended up at like a park, public park, and just really stressed. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna do some martial arts, do some exercise, get those endorphins going, kind of get in a better headspace and figure out how to solve the problem. So I threw down my bags, started training, and all of a sudden, people started throwing change on the bags, and I went, "This is how I'm getting home."
And just like that, I was a performative street artist.
Yeah, yeah. Just like that, I turned into a busker.
Hell yeah.
What a word.
Yeah.
I do want to provide another example, uh, a very fond memory I have that points to you being a perpetual beginner. I remember one day we were where else but the Quan, or maybe at your house. I can't remember specifically, but it's pretty
Where else?
immaterial. Yeah. But you were like, yeah, I picked up stained glass. So I've been doing that for a few weeks.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, Kyle has a
yeah.
variety of interests and skills that you wouldn't expect from any other human beings.
Huh. That's
If
like people picking up
good.
like weaving or things of that nature just to have something to do. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. But stained glass, that sounds maybe I should look into that. I'm curious now.
Yeah, if my wife ever listens to this, she will be unsurprised by that because the number of things. There's a new rule in my house that I'm not allowed to get into anything that I haven't tried yet for a while because I'll spend money on something. I'll spend $100 or $150 on something and then do it twice and go, that is not as fun as I imagined it to be. And now I have wasted money and I am angry.
Jeez. I, I
So
I imagine that's how what like a lot of people who want to get into like brewing their own beer. It's like they're like, oh man, this is gonna be so cool. I can't wait. And then it's like 4 months for your first batch, and you're just kind of like, this sucks. And I spent a couple $100 just to do this. Ugh.
Yeah, yeah.
now that we've broken the seal, I do want to ask how you and your wife met.
Um, so the story that I like to tell everybody is that we were playing volleyball with a group of friends, and we just had kind of on I think a Friday or a Saturday night, and we had some common friends, and we kind of hit it off, and I invited her out for dinner. Um, the real story is somewhat less cool than that. Uh, my friend, Tim, who was part of this like Catholic, yeah, not that Tim, different Tim.
Damn it.
Unless you have a remarkable disguise, Tim.
It is pretty remarkable, isn't it?
Luckily, he's not Highland. There can be more than one Tim.
It can be, but
Removes my
some people
face. I'm
call
just
me Tim.
Highland. Sorry, as
Um,
you were saying.
that's okay. So my friend Tim was part of this like young adult Catholic group that would get together, and I lived across the hall from him. We hit off because we're similar perpetual beginners, similar interests in the outdoors, uh, and had a lot in common. And he invited me to this Catholic group, and I became the token non-Catholic of this group of Catholic young adults. Um, and they do all sorts of activities, whether it's hiking or go to karaoke or go shoot pool. But the night that I met my wife, they played dodgeball in a church basement on a Friday night, and I didn't have anything better to do, and I can't tell you how uncool that makes me feel.
That actually sounds really cool, and I wish I played dodgeball in church basements more often.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, that sounds like a great time. I
All
mean,
right, well, I had a good time. But other than that, kind of the rest of the story is pretty true. I saw my wife. I thought she was pretty cute, but she was very quiet. So I spent most of the evening trying to get her to talk. And then I said something, oh, hey, like, oh, hey, we should do something together. Find me on Facebook, forgetting that she didn't know my last name. She didn't know anything about me. I wasn't actually part of this group on Facebook. So she had to do some digging through some mutual friends, and she found me and reached out, and yeah, we went out to dinner and moved on from there.
dang. A true love story. And the best part is it shows her dedication because you're just like, hey, I'm Kyle. You should add me on Facebook. And then like turned around and left. And she's like, who was this
That's
mysterious man? I must find
that's
out.
pretty much almost exactly how it happened.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
You, like in her head, she's like, wow, this guy must be pretty incredible if he's hitting on me while we're having a dodgeball competition in a church basement on a Friday night. I like this guy. I like the cut of his cloth. That's amazing. Um, so how long have you been married now?
Since October 2019, so it'll be 5 years in October.
Dang, congratulations. Wait,
Congratulations.
what day in October?
Uh, October 12th.
He's
Yeah,
like, I
that's
really
right.
hope she doesn't listen to this episode. I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
Don't worry, Kyle. I do a great job editing these episodes.
Yeah, we're gonna cut that out completely.
Yeah,
No, because
we'll
my
find the
anniversary.
right date, and then your voice will just come over top.
It is 12.
October.
Yeah, my anniversary is also in October, but the wife and I purposely did it for Halloween, so that's why I was asking.
Okay,
I was
very
like,
cool. My
I was like,
wife's favorite holiday is Halloween.
oh, heck yeah. My favorite movie of all time is Halloween, which I've made it a habit of.
Really?
Yeah, I've made it a habit of mentioning it in every single episode. So
And this might be our 52nd episode. We'd have to go back and do some counting, but it's going to release right around NSLP anniversary.
Yeah.
So,
Sometime.
since we're on the topic of movies, what is your favorite Ninja Turtle movie? Since that's what got you in.
None of them. None of them. They're all terrible.
Not even the 90s
I take
ones?
that back. I take that back. I haven't seen like the last two that came out, and apparently
Oh.
one of those was good. Yeah, the 90s ones with Vanilla Ice and Ninja Rap, those aren't good. You may have
Yes,
fond
they are.
memories of them. You may have fond memories of them, but go back and watch
Go
them.
Ninja, go
Not good.
Ninja, go. Go
Yep.
I
Ninja, go
have.
Ninja.
I've watched The
I
Secret
love
of the
those
Ooze
movies.
and the one where they time travel back to Japan, feudalistic Japan.
I think that one's pretty bad.
I love them so much.
I just remember the like nightmare-inducing Ninja Turtle costumes that they used in those. And as a
Yeah.
kid, I was like, these are so cool. But yeah, I think it might have been like 20 years since I've watched it. I'm gonna go look these up on Apple and see if they're even worth buying.
But
Favorite martial arts movie though, or actually favorite movie, is Big Trouble in Little China. If you
Oh,
haven't
I
seen
love
it,
that
you
movie.
have to watch it.
I love that movie.
yeah, that's definitely Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I only ever watched it because it was a John Carpenter movie. And have I mentioned how much I love John Carpenter's Halloween? Oh,
Oh, did he do Halloween too? I didn't know that.
yeah, he did Halloween. And obviously Big Trouble in Little China, which is a phenomenal movie.
So we've buried the lead a little bit here. Kyle, for me to bring this back on the rails, do you think you could give us a brief intro on Kuntao Salat and
Wait,
what
hold
drew
on.
Sure.
you to it?
Hold on a second. Aaron, how do we just walk away from this conversation without asking him who his favorite Ninja Turtle is?
Well, proceed.
Who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Donatello.
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 Which one's Donatello? Is he the
Purple Staff did all the work on machines. He was the
Oh,
engineer.
he was the nerd. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if the shoe
What?
fits, wear it, right?
I guess that's pretty fair, yeah. No, he was also really dope. I always liked him. Anyway, now let's go back into Kuntao Silat. I feel like that's where our conversation should.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, Kuntao Salat, at least the flavor of that I practice, is a blend of Southern Chinese Hakka martial arts and um, Penjat Silat out of Indonesia. And then it's been filtered by the Dutch. So when we train, there are lots of Chinese words and Dutch words and Indonesian words, and they're all mixed together. And I can't always tell you which one's which, but I like to think of it as it's kind of a close infighting martial art that's kind of what I like to think of as the honey badger of martial arts. It's it's based around the idea that you're either outnumbered or out weaponed. So the idea is that you're always dealing with somebody who's got a blade. So there are things that we do or don't do that kind of influence that. Like one of the things that you'll never see us do is one of those classic forearm blocks like this, because all of the inside, I'm holding my phone here, all of the inside of this hand, if you get cut, you bleed out faster. So a lot of our blocks come this direction and work on kind of a wedge pattern that we call the bow of the ship, and keep our bone shields facing forward.
That makes sense because if you even were to be cut in such a way as to not bleed out on the inside of the forearm, that's still where you keep most of your tendons.
Yeah, can't make a fist anymore.
So how long did it take for you to really fall into Salat and then become a guru?
So in 2012, I went down to Georgia. I was living outside of Atlanta, and I went to train with Master Michael Reed, who is ran a Shaolin school down there in Premier Martial Arts. If you guys are in the Atlanta, Georgia area, you guys should definitely check him out. Uh, and then he had a guest come in from Hawaii, a guy by the name of Guru Bahati Merchant, who was Kuntao Silat guy. He trained under Herman Sawanda and Willem de Tuarez. Those are kind of the two branches of Silat that he comes from. That's one of the things I noticed about Silat too. It's very rare that I find somebody who's really into Silat who's just trained one of them. They kind of have multiple teachers teaching a similar library.
Hmm.
And he presented Silat as this incredibly violent, incredibly, short-term, quick ends to conflicts. And he presented strategies that I never understood from Kung Fu on how to deal with multiple opponents, how to really take down an opponent quickly. One of the things I remember that really kind of opened my eyes is he had thrown somebody on the ground. He still had a hold of their arm. And he says, well, what should I do now? And he's kind of looking at the class, and everybody's like, oh, well, you can go and do an arm bar from now. He goes, that's a lot of work. And he just grabs a hold of their fingers and starts separating like the fingers, like the Vulcan peace sign in opposite directions. He's like, I'm just going to rip these as hard as I can because that's going to hurt just as much. And I went, oh, this is a different way to think about stuff. So after that, I was kind of hooked. And when I graduated college, I moved to Chicago and found my teacher there, Joe Jutt, who's out in Virginia Beach now with Apex Martial Arts. And then his student, another one of my teachers when he left, Jeff Fargo, who's in the western suburbs of Chicago. And started training that full time in 2014, and I think sometime around like 2018 got my Guru Muda certification. 2017, 2018 Guru Muda, which means like student teacher. And since then I've gotten my certification for Guru Satu, which is like first level teacher.
So I found a Kuntao Silat website. It's literally kuntaosilat.com.
I'm very familiar with it.
More so for the listeners, but yes, because I imagine this is probably, I'm looking at the logo and it's got like a tiger. I think that's a gorilla, a hawk, or an eagle.
A Garuda, yeah, a Garuda, which is an Indonesian eagle, basically.
Oh, okay. Garuda.
Tiger, yeah.
But
yeah,
they also
Sorry,
have various videos for like introductions of Kuntao Silat, which it looks really interesting. Looks really cool.
Yeah, that's my teacher's teacher who runs that website, a guy by the name of Steve Garten, who he's very talented martial arts. He's also very much of a wild card. And I don't want anybody to think I think poorly of him. I think he's a great guy, and I've gotten to train with him a couple times. I just want to warn your viewers that his worldview is a little bit different than normal if you're scouring his website.
Well, that's good to know. But yeah, no, definitely for any of our listeners, if you're interested or you want to know some more information, go check out the website. We'll have it linked down below with the rest of our links. But yeah, go check it out. And so this way you can kind of follow along and understand what Kyle here is talking about as he tells us about it.
I know one thing that you mentioned in our prior conversations was that in Shaolin Kung Fu, the solution is oftentimes be better. Whereas in Silat, you're training from a deficit, so you learn how to overcome more obstacles.
Yeah, well, yes, I think I think the solution in Shaolin Kung Fu, at least as I trained it, I'm not saying it's the only one out there, but as I trained it, was to be stronger and be faster, be more fit. There's a lot of good stuff that comes out of that. There's an old Chinese saying that I'm probably going to butcher, but the English translation is first guts, second power, third kung fu. Meaning you've got to be brave enough to do it, then you've got to be strong enough to do it, and then you got to know what to do in that order. The thing with Silat, as I practice it, is there is strategy outside of being stronger and being faster, and that is being in a better position most of the time, or having better structure, meaning having your connection to the ground better so you're harder to move and you can hit harder, and being in a better position so you have more opportunity to take advantage of opponents' missteps, or to be able to affect, we call it desplante, but basically moving your opponent, buying yourself a quarter second where they're trying to regain their balance.
It sounds to me like you've learned a lot of different perspective while you've been studying Silat. So can you kind of tell us a little bit of like, how did your mentality change as you started getting deeper and deeper into this? Because I mean, you're a guru, so you're teaching, so it means you're pretty proficient in it. So like differences between this and how Shaolin functions,
I think Shaolin, as I practiced it, and I think part of that, how Grandmaster Sin brought it over and advertised it, it was heavily influenced by athletics and sports, and heavily influenced by kind of sport karate. So high kicks, which there's nothing wrong with high kicks, but maintaining a certain distance and having a certain exchange, where you expect to get hit and then you expect to get hit. I think the first thing that I learned, or the first mental shift, was what to expect to do to your opponent. And it's kind of that conversation was, oh, I could armbar him, yeah, or I could just break his fingers, right? And that's kind of, I think, Silat has kept more of the war and battle roots, so it's more geared towards, hey, look, none of us really want to fight, but if I've decided to fight, then I'm going to make sure I win, and I'm going to damage you to the point where you can't continue. This is a tap out situation. This is a going to damage you so I can get away and go see my family, which is pretty dramatic, right? Most of us are never going to be in that situation. And I hope everybody listening never has to be in that situation. But for me, it makes me feel good to be able to train to prepare for that. And it's a fun mental game.
That reminds me, the other day I was having lunch with some friends and they were talking about a friend they had a falling out with. And apparently this guy did some pretty heinous stuff. And our friend expressed that if he has a disagreement that gets to the point to where it's going to be a physical altercation, that there's no time to step outside. If
Agreed.
it's so relaxed that you can go to another location to have this engagement, it's not worth having. So
yeah, walk away.
Yep. So it sounds like Salat is, I don't want to fight, but if I do, I'm going to be a honey badger. I'm going to be nasty. I'm going to expect you to have a weapon or friends, and I am going to terminate this engagement in a way that we can never be enemies again.
Yep. You're going to remember me for the rest of your life, whether it's just every time it rains or because your life isn't very long.
Yeah. That reminds me of Grandmaster Dale Brown.
Yeah. Yeah. His attitudes are very similar to some of the slot people I've practiced with.
So,
I think coming out of that, like I said, that's the first shift. The second shift is how much your physical posture dictates what you can do. Um, whether it's having the way you stand or the way you walk or the way you hold your head or the way you move your elbow when you punch. Little stuff allows you to kind of connect your body and to be able to move people quite easily and be very difficult to move. Um, one of my favorite little things to show people that, and I wish we had somebody here to show with, is and it's just a trick. It's not like a martial application. But if you get somebody really strong to grab a hold of your wrists and pull them straight down, so they're like trying to anchor you to the ground as you're standing forward. If you know your own position, you can easily sink that into the ground, raise your elbows up, and they move, and you stay right there. Again, it's not particularly martially useful, but that's kind of the brain space that you're in, where you go, oh, this is how you move somebody. This is how you don't get moved. And then the third shift, the one that I'm still working on today, is your position relative to your opponent dictates your decisions, where you can go and what you can do, and being able to control the distance and your position relative to your opponent. If you can control your position and your distance relative to your opponent, you win.
Yeah. If you eliminate every branch on their decision tree while opening up your own, it's going to be a pretty one-sided engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's grossly simplifying how complicated it is. Um, I'm still working on it. I'm still getting punched in the face a lot. Uh, but that's kind of the mental shift.
And I think all of
It's
that
one of
is,
those. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think all of that is sound advice. I mean, um, advice. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for specifically here, but like, I feel like people can take from your point of view, people can hear what you've learned shifting into Silat, and they can apply that in in their own lives, and maybe help
Some
them
of
kind of see things.
Absolutely. Some of my favorite books uh, are The Art of War and The Book of Five Rings.
Mm.
When you read those, uh, or at least when I read them the first time, I'm like, oh, these are like life lesson type books. These are how you learn things. And I mean, they are. You get a lot of stuff from them. But also, when you read them, having trained enough and trained in a certain way, you go, holy shit, these are training manuals. And I had no idea. But there's a ton of crossover into how you train and how you deal with somebody in violent conflict and how you deal with people in nonviolent conflict.
Yeah, definitely. How how do you manage to like, I mean, you talked about how you like picking up different hobbies, and you're um a constant how did you put it? A constant like apprentice?
Beginner.
Beginner, yeah. Um you're always doing that. You're a guru. You have a whole life. Like how do you a whole life, a whole wife, I believe you're a father as well, right?
Yeah, I have the greatest kid of all time. Um, I had him tested. Scientific fact. He's more adorable than 98% of the population. So that means like 7 billion people. It's 140,000 kids that might be more adorable than him.
No,
Maybe.
that's not a lot.
Yeah.
Your kids in the 1%, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you balance all this stuff though? Like, how do you be a father, a husband, a guru, a constant beginner? Like, how do you do this stuff?
That has been the struggle, I think, since I got married. When it was just me, it's not too hard for me to juggle. my brain doesn't rest. Um, I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't play any video games. I I don't find those things fun for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I like moving and I like learning and I like doing things. Um, so very often I'll go from one activity to another activity. Oh, I'm working out and training martial arts. Well, now I'm tired, but I don't really want to sit still. Or maybe I can grab a pencil and learn how to draw, or maybe I can grab a camera and learn how to take pictures. Or hey, I injured something. I need something to do that doesn't let me wallow in depression, uh, and keeps my mind occupied because I can't do the things that I'm used to doing. Um, Backpacking, working out, whatever it is. So that's part of it. Is it's a health thing for me to help mitigate uh, kind of self-destructive tendencies. Is to keep busy, but then you throw a wife into it. So now I've got somebody else's life to balance, and she's a pharmacist at a hospital, so her schedule's all over the place. And then you throw a kid into it, so now somebody's always got to be there for the kid, and it becomes difficult. And I really do have to hand it to my wife that she has gone like over and above to give me time to do stuff, because she sees how it helps with my mental health. But um, you kind of adapt on what your goals are
Mm-hmm.
and what you want to work on at that time.
Yeah.
Some things uh, take a lot of time investment. When I first started the Salat, when I first started Shaolin, I lived and breathed it till I got everything down. Right now, as much as I still want to do that, if I get 3 nights, 4 nights a week where I get an hour, maybe 2 hours some nights to train and work out, I'm doing great. Some weeks I don't even get that. Um, so I kind of shift to other activities. Like uh, I found this textbook series on math, on different on higher level math that was written by the Soviets in the 1960s. And I found it in PDF form for free, and I figured out how to put it on my Kindle. Um, so that's something I've got on my list to go through. It's all math. Most of it's math I've already done before, but I haven't done it in a while. And being able to read how the Soviets taught math, which is wildly different than how we taught math as Westerners, uh, is an interesting thing to me. And I get to kind of compare, oh, hey, I didn't think about numbers this way, or I didn't think about algebra this way, or I didn't think about calculus this way. And so that's not as time and labor intensive for me because it's all stuff I've seen before, but I still get to constantly learn and constantly hone myself.
Mm.
Uh, there are other little things you get to do, right? Like we cook most nights. We don't go out to eat very often. And that means you cut up vegetables almost every night. Well, how can I do that better? I got 10 minutes. I can go on YouTube and read how professionals cut onions. And then I can start practicing that every time I cut an onion. So it's whatever you can keep in your head and keep going. And I've got these guys all over the place. These are no just paper notebook with a pen, and they write down, hey, I need to do this. I was thinking about this. Really organize it into a bunch of different thoughts. And depending on what notebook I'm going at, helps me organize that stuff.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I remember hearing about that kind of concept, the notebook specifically, right? I'm gonna work my way backwards through everything that you just said, but there was somebody that I remember seeing who made like this comprehensive video on YouTube about how replacing their phone with a notepad had changed their life, which is really interesting and really fascinating. And it inspired me to go out and purchase like a little mini notepad to bring around with me everywhere, which I never actually ended up doing anything with. It just got bent to all hell because it would stay in my pocket all the time, and I never wrote anything in it really. But I kind of want to try it again because I've been having issues with like focusing in on one thing and trying to juggle all the stuff I have going on. Because right now there's just work related stuff, right? Work and personal. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I kind of wonder if that might be able to help me shift my focus. Is that kind of what it's done for you?
That is exactly what it's done for me. And I started doing it relatively recently, less than 6 months ago, um, as a way to handle what I'm calling the ADHD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unconfirmed, but it's much easier to say ADHD than anything else. But this inability to stay focused, and have to bounce between a lot of things, and then not remembering what I'd done, was really, really getting to me. And between, my martial arts and my family and my job, and at the time, a lot of people had quit at my job, so I was stuck in a place for doing five people's jobs. Not well, mind you. I don't want this to sound like, oh yeah, I can do five people's jobs. No, I can't. I can do my job, but there were four other people that were gone, and their job needed to happen. Um, so since then we've hired most of them. We've hired three of those four people, and it's been a game changer. But that's what I start with. I have a notebook. I have the notebook I showed you. I just keep with me all the time for random thoughts. This is personal stuff. This is, oh, I need to make a packing list. Um, or I need to remember to buy a thing. Or, oh, I had this idea. Um, and then I have a notebook for work. It's all my work stuff. And then I have a notebook for martial arts. And then I have a notebook for just a random stuff that I'm learning, whether it's mathematics or photography or something like that. And what I do with the martial arts and the work related, kind of intellectual related things, I've made these things called Zettelkastens, which it's Zettelkasten, I think. It's a German word. And I found this online, and this has been game changing too. They're boxes. I'm gonna walk and talk so I can show you. They're boxes of notes that allow you to organize things kind of organically from the ground up. So let me show you. Let me flip my video here. So I have this box. It's labeled martial arts, and inside of it is just a stack of note cards and a little index in the front. And then as you get into it, I don't know if you can see that very well. I go, oh, this is my section on goal lock, which is machete stuff. Here's my section on goal lock footwork. And each slip is an individual thought. And it forces you, one, it gives you a great place to reference because it's all indexed. You can go, what was that thing about the footwork? Or what was that thing about how to measure electrical signals and circuit? I know I wrote it down. Let me look in my index, electrical signals, footwork, whatever. Here it is. So that's good. But two, it forces you to take the time to figure out where it goes.
How did you spell that?
Zettelkasten.
Zettelkasten.
Yeah.
Okay, I found it.
Yeah. Leave it to the Germans to come up with a note-taking system that actually makes sense. And it's been game-changing for me to be able to. It takes a little bit more time, but I'm actually retaining information in a way that I've never been able to do before because I've never been able to take notes before. Up until this point, I didn't take notes. I just sat and listened and regurgitated.
Before we get too far away from it, for any of our listeners who weren't able to see exactly what Kyle was showing us, he essentially was showing us a like a box full of index cards that were organized. But let me go ahead and read what this Zettelkasten is, just as a simple definition for anybody who's interested in looking it up. A Zettelkasten, German for slip box, or card file, consists of small items of information stored on Zettels, German slips, paper slips or cards that may be linked to each other through subject headings or other metadata such as numbers and tags. It has often been used as a system of note-taking and personal knowledge management for research, study, and writing, which I think you did a phenomenal job of conveying every single bit of that explanation. But yeah, no, that's a really cool thing. I've never heard of that. Super fascinating, and might be a really great way for people who are struggling with, having a hard time organizing data or information about particular hobbies they enjoy, things that they do in their life, kind of exactly like how you described it. Martial arts is a big portion of your life, but you want to record the information, put it inside of your card file. And yeah, it's really cool, really interesting. People who don't know about that and want to give it a shot, please do so. That'd be really cool.
Highly encourage you. It's a little bit of work up front to manage it. But one, it's incredibly cheap. You can get 1,000 note cards on Amazon for I think $11 or something like that.
Damn.
And yeah, and then a pen, and you can use a shoebox or you can buy a note card specific box. It's very cheap to do. There are apps that let you do it digitally. I don't like doing things digitally. For two reasons. I don't want to stare at my phone any more than I have to already, or that I do already. Definitely addicted to YouTube. And two, there's some data from I think University of Tokyo that talks about when you take notes, taking them physically allows you to place them in space, which lets you remember better.
Yep.
So my note taking is done physically because of that.
Yeah, I used to take, well, I mean, I still do take a lot of digital notes, just for the nature of my job. If I get a phone call and I'm doing something and I don't always have paper or pen next to me, but yeah, no, taking physical notes helps me remember stuff way better than taking digital notes. Digital notes, like, it's almost like you'll data dump it because your brain either subconsciously or consciously knows that you can just look back to it later.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, well, I don't need to worry about remembering that. But if I write it down on something physical, there's more processes that have to go through my brain, I think. I have to actually physically write out each word. My brain's going to remember it a little bit better. And I could lose that piece of paper. My brain's going to be like, you might want to remember that one.
And I think the method of using these boxes is actually makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
The way they talk, when you read about it and you learn about it, they talk about writing everything on slips of paper, and then you have like short-term ones where it's just like to get you through a second, and then you have ones that you've taken your short-term one and you reworded it in your own words, and you kind of look at that, and then you've got something that they call permanent notes where you've taken those short-term ones, or you've taken those like midterm ones and you've rewritten them to really condense them and put them in your permanent file. I do the same thing with notebooks. I have scratch paper at work that if somebody calls me or I have a thought, I'll whip it on the scratch paper. If it's important enough, I'll put it in my general notebook. Then I'll reword it in the way that I like it. And then I set aside time every week to go over the week before's notes and turn those into those note cards that go in the box if they, earned a spot. A lot of them don't. A lot of them are like, oh, that's not super valuable in the long term, or that's not a couple dimensions here and there that I had to remember.
My God, you really feel like you've become a guru in organization and prioritization here.
As much as being an engineer is about math, it's more about that. That's how, or at least for me, that's how my brain works. My brain works in processes. And I didn't realize how neurotic I was about it until I was explaining to my friend when we were backpacking. Like, when you leave the tent, the zipper needs to be here.
Yeah.
And I had my reasons as to why it needs to be there. And like I heard myself talking, I go, "Oh my gosh, I don't know why anybody would want to live with me because I'm neurotic."
Yeah. My wife has similar struggles because I definitely have a process for everything that I do, and I
Mhm.
have a reason for that process. And if someone's not doing it the correct way, that's going to trigger my anxieties.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
oh
Yeah,
my God.
I have
I
a
almost had a
similar.
heart attack the other day
Mhm.
when she put the Fortiflora packet in the used wet food container because obviously I need to wash out the wet food container and put it in the recycling, and the little paper sachet, since it's like a weird composition, doesn't get recycled. And I was like, babe, please never for the rest of our lives put the sachet in the wet food container. What the fuck?
And I don't think people realize how those of us who organize our brains that way, how much it does screw with us. Like there's
Mhm.
plenty of stuff I don't care about, right? I don't care whether or not the butter knives are on the left hand side or the right hand side in the like I'm not that level, but I do care that hey, all the medicine in the house should go in this spot. It doesn't have to be alphabetized. I'm not a monster, but I want it here.
If I need medicine, I know where to go for it. It's right there. Why
Yeah,
would we keep medicine anywhere else except right there?
exactly.
Yeah. I
If
have
I have
a
a headache, I don't want to have to search for it while I have a headache.
My wife likes to keep the Tylenol and other various like painkillers and stuff in her nightstand by the bed because she has headaches frequently from working on her computer and everything all the time. And I remember it was like a week or two ago, and I was like, I have a really bad headache. Where is this Tylenol? And I'm like digging through the cabinet. And I'm like, where the hell is the Tylenol? And she's like, oh, it's in my nightstand. I'm like, God damn it. But yeah,
I'm also, yeah, yeah.
it just makes sense. Like put all the medicine in one spot. It's easier to find that way.
Well, and it's like for me, I struggle to remember to do things. Like if
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, I need to do this thing, it if I don't, I'm getting better because I've got this notebook and I can write it down and I can then look back at it. But for certain things, like for toothpaste or diapers, I always start out buying two because when I empty one, then I know, then that's the physical reminder for me to go, I have to get another one because I'll empty the first one. Now I've got a whole tube of toothpaste because I picked up the second one, but I don't have one behind it. If I don't put that on the grocery list, I'm going to forget and I'm going to run out of toothpaste and I'm going to go for another one and there's going to be no toothpaste. But if I have if I use that as a physical trigger, I don't have this anymore. I need it there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get that.
I've developed a very similar I don't know if I want to call them like ritualistic approaches, but I've developed very similar
Processes.
yeah, just naturally over time because like as an example, right? Like I will never remember if I locked my door or did not lock my door. So I leave my house the exact same way every single time. And
Hmm.
if anything interrupts or changes that process, I immediately forget if I locked the door or not. Like if I forget my wallet inside and I have to go back in the house, I'm gonna be like, did I lock the door? Now I have to go back and double check to make sure I locked it. Like it's small, simple things like that, but yeah, it'll completely alter how I remember or approach the situation. And yeah, it
Yeah,
just makes more sense to do it. I do it the same way. I do it one way, the same way every single time, and this way I know I'm doing it right. And that's how my brain
right.
works.
Yeah, my headphones, these headphones, when I'm not using them, live in the same place
Hmm.
all the time. They go in a pocket in a backpack, and that's where they live. And as a consequence, I never lose them. Um, but if for some reason I don't put them in that pocket in that backpack, then I'm spending 30 minutes going, where did they go? What happened to them? And it'll wreck the rest of that day.
Well, we are getting over to that hour time frame. It's a little late here in Italy for me. So before we jump off of here, I do want to ask you, are there any particular interests that you've been getting into lately that you want to learn more about and kind of share with us what you've been exploring that's new?
Gosh. I have a list. I keep a running list. Keep it in the front of my book
I love
because
that.
I forget the things that I want to learn. Um, my list, I also have a list at the front of my book of things that I want to prioritize spending time on.
Mhm.
And I've got, family, martial arts, reading and learning, physical fitness. I've got making friends on there because I've been here for a while, but I moved in COVID. So like,
Mm.
and then had a kid. So, um, but one of the things that I'm kind of getting into at the moment, I mentioned I want to read more about mathematics and kind of review that. So that's one of the things, but also reading some more of the um, global changing books. One's like The Road to Serfdom by F.A. Hayek, who talks about the effect of communism um, on the Soviet Union. And, the I would like to read the Catholic Catechism front to back. It's very dry, but I'd like to have read it.
Yeah.
Um, I have a book that my dad got me on logic and how to work your way through a problem called How to Become a Really Good Pain in the Ass. So those are just, some of the things I've looked at. I'd like to review stuff on mechanical vibration because I thought it was cool in college and I was good at it and I've forgotten all of it. So a lot of reading right now um, to kind of intersperse with the things that I already do.
Yeah. A lot of reading, but about various different topics. And I'm pretty sure Aaron's written down most of the books that you just talked about. So we're probably going to add that to our No Streetlights book listing that I think we're putting out or publishing or something to that effect. But yeah, dang, that's a lot of stuff that I probably, I mean, I think I think it's a great idea. I need to sit down and write a list of things that I want to prioritize and things that I don't want to prioritize. I think at the top of that list is always going to be family. And then the very next thing is probably going to be health and working out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make that list. You've inspired me to make that list.
I encourage you to make that list and the other two life-changing lists that are at the front of my book are the things to read list that I read off to you, and then meals to make again. I don't know how many times you guys go into your life. You're like, what should I have for dinner? And you end up spending like tons of time. Like you're like, oh, we had something really good, and just making a little note, going, that was good. This is where to find it. Those are my three lists that have genuinely like helped my life, and they took 10 minutes.
I think another thing I'm going to add to my list is figuring out where the hell I put all my pins. Like I don't have a single pin around me. And like this is my work desk. Like I don't have a single I have a pen soul. I had a pen. Anyway, I'm gonna make those three lists. I might change out the reading list for something slightly different because I just don't really typically read too much these
Yeah,
days.
listen to music list,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, podcast list.
No
So,
streetlights would be at the very top of that list.
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely.
I actually have a note in here about that, about your podcast, because I heard about it when I was back in Parkersburg. Somebody told me about it. I'm like, oh, Aaron and Tim have a podcast called No Streetlights. I got to find it and listen to it.
I want to know who told you about it.
Tanya from the Kung Fu School.
She's on my list of people to interview.
Yep. She's going to
So,
be a guest at some point.
my final question for you, Kyle. I want to know a little bit more about how all these different aspects of your life, all these different things you're interested in, influence one another. Does your martial arts experience translate in a weird way to your engineering work? or does backpacking and travel influence how you think about a physical engagement?
Yes, to all of the above. It's a spider web. Um, I'll talk through your specific examples. So, um, the first one was martial arts and work.
Mhm.
Those go back and forth quite a bit. One, going from martial arts to work, I'm not afraid of conflict at work, um, whatever kind it is. So, as an engineer, a lot of times my job is to say, "Hey, this is a good idea," or this is an idea that I think is good," or to see somebody else's idea and say, "Oh yeah, that's a good one," or "That's a bad one." Lots of people have problems telling other people their ideas are bad. That's not a problem. I don't have that problem. Um, because in my head, uh, I'm confident enough that I want people to tell me when my ideas are bad, and I think other people want me to tell them when their ideas are bad.
Mhm.
And being able to be confident enough to take that criticism means you're confident enough to give that criticism, and you get this really honest feedback from people that you work with. On the other hand, going from work to martial arts, a lot of my work is about organization and meeting schedules and making things fit in certain timelines. And so that allows me to go to my martial arts and go, all right, how am I going to practice? What am I going to focus on? What's my short term goal? What's my medium term goal? What's my long term goal? How do I break that out into training regimes?
Yeah, it all seems like it kind of ties together and goes hand in hand in one way, shape, or form. Skills from one thing translates to another thing, and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a teacher growing up that said, there's no such thing as useless information. I think I'd made a comment about, I'd only ever use that on Jeopardy or something like that. Uh, but yeah, I kind of agree with that. There's no such thing as useful information. It's just you've got to keep it long enough to figure out where it fits in.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think that's some wise bit of word. I mean, you've provided a lot of like wise words, I would say, and some very sound
Sorry.
advice during this episode. You said sorry?
Yeah, I didn't mean to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, possibly change somebody's life with incredible advice. Oh, that old thing? My bad. No, I mean it's been absolutely incredible. Kyle, I really hope that the listeners they take some of the things that you taught us today. I mean, hell, you inspired me to make a list of things in order of how I want to prioritize them and various other lists. Maybe I'll add a movies I want to watch list. I think I might put
That's a good one.
Interstellar at the top and then proceed to not watch it until another year from now.
Oh yeah, no, I've got a movies I want to watch list that I never look at.
You're
I
like, I hate
always forget
movies,
to look
so.
at it.
But yeah, no, I mean, incredible advice. You have an incredible mind, the way it works and the
No,
interests
thank you.
that you have. I mean, it's been absolutely incredible to hear about who you are, what you've been through, and how it's changed you.
Well, thank you. I
Before
appreciate you guys inviting me and spending the time and letting me soapbox for a little bit. That's always fun.
It was a great conversation. Is there anything you want to add or draw attention to before we get into this closer?
I don't think so. Thank you though.
Well, Kyle, I really want to thank you for your time. This has been an incredible conversation.
Likewise, I enjoyed it.
And I want to go ahead and thank all of you, the listeners and our supporters, for checking us out, listening to this episode all the way through. If you liked it, please share it with a friend or share it with somebody or on social media or anything to that effect. And if you want to support Aaron and I directly, you can head to our Patreon. It's going to be in the links below, and you can sign up. We have tiers from $1 to $100. So sign up for whatever you're comfortable with and help us out if you feel so inclined.
And even at the $1 tier and up, you get to pose questions to our guests. So you would have known that we had a biomedical engineer coming up, who is also a Kuntao Silat guru, and you would have been able to ask your questions about those things. We're also here in season 4 really trying to grow our community. So please invite whoever you want to our pages. And if you want to collaborate or you want us to collaborate with someone else, don't hesitate to send them to us.
Heck yeah. You can talk with us on our Discord that we just recently opened up. You can hit us up via our email, nostreetlightspodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on our social medias. We have plenty of them. If you look for us, you're going to find us. Feel free to message us, comment, anything of that nature. If you would just want to reach out and say you liked us, or maybe you want to reach out and say you don't like us, it is what it is. We'll take it.
Can I add one last thing?
Please.
I just want to remind your listeners that life is basically one massive social experiment. So when you try something and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean you're a failure. That doesn't mean you failed. That just means you learned something. Try again, do something different.
Yeah, that's another bit of a mic drop moment here from Kyle. If it wasn't for that mentality of if I'm going to fail, I at least want to try, I don't think I would have ever started this podcast. So Aaron and I, we originally started it with the idea that if we fail at it, then it is what it is. We're just it doesn't have to be perfect, right? The podcast, the show, this does not have to be perfect. We're going to just do it, and we're going to grow as we do it. And I think taking that kind of mentality into anything that you do, if you've never worked out a day in your life and you want to go to the gym and you lift some dumbbells and your form isn't the best, if you keep going back, you're going to get better. If you don't know how to throw a proper high kick, if you keep practicing, you're going to get better. And if you don't understand mathematics, pick up a Soviet book, keep practicing, and you're going to get better.
Quick little reminder, our podcast is for entertainment purposes and cannot be substituted for professional medical advice. If you need help now, please call 911 or 988 for immediate intervention.
Be good to yourselves and each other.
We love you.
Peace!